Well, hello again, everybody. Hello and welcome. My name is Tim Sink. I am president of the Greater Concord Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you all for being here. Please continue to enjoy your lunch. But in the interest of time, I just wanted to get this program going. I want to thank Governor Ayotte for taking the time to be here. I understand we're the first chamber that she's giving this address to, so kind of proud about that. Thank you, Governor. Much appreciated. And a couple of announcements before we get this going. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors. Our presenting sponsor is Lincoln Financial, and our supportive sponsor is Eversource. And I just want to point out these two companies, and you're all familiar with these companies, but they do such a great job. They're thoroughly engaged in the chamber. They make events like this possible. They support economic development initiatives, education initiatives. They really enhance the quality of life of New Hampshire. So I'm very grateful for both Lincoln Financial and Eversource. Also, a shout out to Lori Carey and Marshall's Florist. We've got some centerpieces, and thank you, Lori, for that. And at the end of the luncheon, you can fight amongst yourselves. If anybody wants to grab those and take them, please do. Upcoming events. We have a business after hours scheduled on the 11th of March, 5:30 p.m. at Business New Hampshire, Bank of New Hampshire stage. So that'll be a fun event. We also are continuing our Lunch and Loan series on March 13th at 11:15 to 1 p.m. That's a partnership between the SBA, Merrimack County Savings Bank, Capital Regional Development Council, and the subject matter is best practices to fuel business needs and identifying the right loan products. That's a free event. Another free event, we'll be hosting the Concord Young Professional Network, which is actually a part of the chamber, and that is taking place on March 19th at Feathered Friend. It's brews and pizza. I think Constantine's providing the pizza, but whether you're a young professional or not, that's going to be a packed event. It's going to have a lot of young professionals there, but all are welcome to attend. There's no cost for that event. Finally, Business Showcase right here in the Grapponi Conference Center on April the 8th. That's our trade show, annual trade show. We've been doing it for decades. Pretty much a sellout event, but I think we may have a few booths left. So if you would like to exhibit, please give us a call at the chamber. Maddie can help you out with that. And if you don't want to exhibit, we welcome you to just attend as a guest and do some networking. It's a great event. Lots of other things going on at the chamber. Check our website, concordanhchamber.com. Click on events. Just tons of things going on, so we would welcome that. Want to recognize Mayor Champlin. Always great to see the mayor here. Thank you for joining us today. And a number of my bosses are here as well. Larry's the key boss. Larry Haynes, our chairman of the board from Grapponi Automotive. Also with us today, Scott Laughinghouse, Tracy Noel from Associated Grocers of New England, Tom Furtado of Catch Neighborhood Housing, Josh Robinson from Checkmate HCM, Dara Madden, our incoming chair from Irish Electric, and Brad Kulaks from Merrimack County Savings Bank. Did I miss anybody? Any of my board members? Good, wonderful. So thank you, bosses, for being here. Oh, Gary Miller. Were you a late sign-up? No? Okay, well, my apologies. Gary Miller from Unitil, also a board member. Oh, former Mayor Jim Boulay, also a member of our board of directors. I forgot you as well. You were a late sign-up. Never mind. Okay. We're going to get onto the program here. Again, thanks to Lincoln Financial for being our sponsor. Ethan Knappen is going to do the introduction. Ethan is a credentialed actuary with 14-year veteran with Lincoln Financial. He leads the advanced analytics team and group benefits business for Lincoln Financial. He's not exactly a New Hampshire native, but he's been here since high school, went to UNH, and he and his family live here in the state, so we're grateful for you, Ethan. Please come on up and do the introductions.
Thank you, Tim, and I'm honored to be here today representing Lincoln and to have the opportunity to introduce our governor soon. First, I do want to just take a moment to tell you about Lincoln Financial. Aside from being the home field to the recent Super Bowl champions, the Eagles, But don't worry, I'm a Pats fan when I'm not working still. Lincoln Financial helps people confidently plan for their vision of a successful financial future. In addition to making a positive impact on our lives of our customers and families, we support our communities like New Hampshire, where we live and work through our philanthropic arm, the Lincoln Financial Foundation. Our philanthropic arm, specifically in New Hampshire, spans across the state, focused in Concord, Manchester, and Dover. The foundation's grants to nonprofits empower and improve the lives of many. In particular, over the last year, over $500,000 was contributed to grants, sponsorships, and employee matching to over 60 nonprofits. In line with the foundation's three main areas of focus, human services, youth education, and financial wellness, our grantees include the Concord Coalition to End Homelessness, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central New Hampshire, and Home Team New Hampshire, a collaborative effort between Catch, Lakes Region Community Developers, and NeighborWorks Southern New Hampshire. We at Lincoln are committed to continuing to support the development of a resilient, thriving communities in the Granite State and across our nationwide footprint. Now let's shift our attention to the governor. As a lifelong Granite Stater, Governor Kelly Ayotte knows New Hampshire is the best state in the country to live, work, and raise a family. And she's working hard every day to deliver for all constituents. Growing up in New Hampshire, Governor Ayotte learned the only way to achieve success is by working hard. Her first job was bussing tables through the summers. Then she worked her way through college, receiving a Bachelor of Arts with honors from Penn State University and her law degree from Villanova University. Governor Ayotte has dedicated her life to public service, including as a prosecutor, New Hampshire's first female Attorney General, appointed by a Republican governor and reappointed by a Democratic governor, and as New Hampshire's United States Senator, working across the aisle to find solutions to our nation's biggest challenges. Governor Ayotte understands the importance of small businesses and job creations to New Hampshire's economy. In addition to helping her husband Joe start and run his own business, she spent several years working with companies in New Hampshire and across the country. Moreover, she appreciates the role of nonprofit organizations for New Hampshire and has served on several boards, including Swim with a Mission, Veterans Count, and the school board of St. Christopher Academy in Nashua. Governor Ayotte still lives in Nashua, her hometown, with her husband Joe and her two children, Kate and Jake. Now I'd like you all to please join me in welcoming and thanking Governor Kelly Ayotte for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much, Ethan. That was a really kind introduction. And I am thrilled to be here at the Concord Chamber today. And I know I see many people that I've known for a lot of years, and I see some new faces, so that is great. It's always an honor to be here with Mayor Champlin, and we were just reminiscing, we met 25 years ago. So, you know, very New Hampshire. We all have interconnections, which is, I think, what makes our state great. And I really very much want to thank Tim Sink for his incredible leadership and to congratulate you. I understand that you may be moving on, but your contributions to this chamber have been phenomenal. And you know, you're members of the board and thinking about everyone who's supported you, but you've really made this a very, very strong chamber. So I appreciate the opportunity to address this chamber first as a new governor of New Hampshire, but it's really a testament to you and what you do for the people of Concord, so thank you. So I'm really, when I think about New Hampshire, you know, one of the great things about being governor is, you know, I get to be the cheerleader for New Hampshire, right? And I truly believe that New Hampshire is what I like to say the beast of the Northeast. We have a tremendous amount of things going for us. The reasons that we're doing so well isn't about me, it's not about leadership, it's really because of all of you in this room. Your passion, your energy, your focus in your businesses. I know most of you do not just the businesses that you work in, but you're contributing to nonprofits, to your community. And the things that we're doing right are really because of the collective effort of the people in this room and outside of this room that make New Hampshire such a special place. But the numbers also line up that we're doing very well too. We have the lowest tax burden in the nation, and we have the lowest poverty rate in the nation. Our job rate is the highest, job rate growth is the highest in New England, and so we're doing very well there relative to our neighbors. We also our new business startups are exceeding the national average. Unemployment is low, wages continue to rise, and we're outperforming our neighbors on many measures. And we have a different model here, right, in terms of our tax and our regulatory framework, but also the way we pitch in together as a state to get things done. So our New Hampshire advantage is strong. It's on display for everyone to see. And it's a result from the perspective of how we do things in New Hampshire, of our prudent, financially responsible approach to taxes, regulations, our commitment to protecting our beautiful environment and our quality of life. And that's really what's made us a prime destination in the region, and why people are actually moving to New Hampshire and some other states, they're leaving, unfortunately. And so as we think about what has been created over these last number of years because of your work and the work of many others, we have a truly, truly special state here in New Hampshire. But this success doesn't come without some new challenges. Some are older challenges, some are newer challenges. And one of the top challenges that we face as a state is really housing, and not having enough housing supply for that people can afford in terms of those that work in our communities, our young people, those that are aging in our communities. So this is a key challenge that we have. Other challenges: keeping a best-in-class education system, keeping up with the demand for services of those that need our help in a more challenging fiscal environment. But I believe in New Hampshire, and I believe that despite these challenges, our best days lay ahead, and we'll meet these challenges head on, and I know many in this room are already working on those challenges. So the first one I want to talk about is housing. There's really no greater pressure weighing on our economic success in this state than the housing market, and really the demand and availability for housing. Supply is tight, demand is high, and inventory is very expensive. I'm not telling you anything you don't know as business owners. You need a labor force, and if you need workforce, you need a place for them to live. And that's why it's so important to our economic success. Our job growth does lead the region, but our home listings are half of where they were at the pre-pandemic level, and rentals are extremely tight. So with respect to the budget that I just submitted, and I was glad to do this address. Apparently you do this address usually after the budget, of course, because the budget sets the framework for the state of New Hampshire for the next 2 years. And in my budget, one of the things I heard a lot about on the campaign trail when I ran was the state's role in this. Meaning, if you want to build or develop anything at the state level and you need a permit, you have to basically interact with 4 different agencies. And they often weren't talking to each other, and things were getting hung up there. So one of the proposals in my budget is to streamline our permitting and to make it a 60-day process. And we as the state need to model good behavior as we ask local communities like Concord, let us model good behavior so that we can partner with local communities as they look at projects of how we can enhance the housing supply in this state. So that is a step that I hope will get passed by the legislature, and I'm pushing very hard on. There also are some very good bipartisan efforts right now in Concord. The first bill I signed, it's kind of fun signing your first bill as a governor, by the way. It was a bipartisan bill. And I know the former mayor, Mayor Boulay, is here. His wife, Senator Reardon, was actually a lead sponsor of this in the Senate, so it was great to have a bipartisan bill on an important issue to sign as my first bill, and it's called the CPACER bill. This is a voluntary financing mechanism that the private sector can use, another tool in the toolbox that allows for them to finance the energy pieces of projects in a way that makes it more affordable, is sustainable. It will now be, we've had this legislation in place, but it just hasn't been working. So it's been revamped. The Business and Finance Authority will take over administration of it, and then local municipalities will decide if they want to participate. 26 other states have this program, and so we hope they've seen some success. We hope this will be another way to finance some of these housing projects going forward. So it was great to bring people together around that issue. Related to housing is also, of course, workforce. We talked about it. A key component to our economic success is having a trained workforce. That's why in the budget that I put forward, I really propose significant investments in our community college system. NHTI is a very strong part of this community, an important part of this community, but really focusing on career-ready education, making sure that's accessible to our student. We continued a tuition freeze at our community college and funded dual and concurrent enrollment, which before I came over here today, I was actually at the Concord Regional Technical Center. Phenomenal work being done with Concord High, and to really be there and meet the kids that were studying automotive. They're leaving high school with their LNA. They are studying culinary. In fact, they are working on plumbing and HVAC, and we can go on and on, but this is very, very important in terms of our workforce needs in New Hampshire. And so in my budget, I really focused on that. Career technical education, more resources for certificate programs that we can get people the training in high school, and we can transfer that to our community colleges, and hopefully they'll go on to our university system as well. And people, and some of the students that are taking advantage of this in New Hampshire, they're right over at NHTI. I met one of those students, Lindsay Taylor. She had a passion. She wanted to change her career. She went through the LNA program at NHTI, and now she's working at the nursing home in Merrimack County, working with seniors and making a difference. So that's the type of work we can do. And one of the things I wanted to say to Larry Haynes, Amanda Osmore has been focusing very much, the Grapponi companies have been focusing very much on this. So this is a great opportunity for public-private partnerships to grow our workforce here in New Hampshire. And we're going to continue to focus on that. We're going to make sure that that is really resourced in this budget, and we're going to continue to grow that. But we want you at the table at that as the private sector. How can we build partnerships so we have the workforce for tomorrow? And while we're on the topic of education, for our children to succeed, education has to be at the core of it. The budget that I proposed actually sends more money to the local level than ever before. We've also put additional resources into special education because those costs have gone up pretty significantly for communities, and it's a very important issue. And we're also making available education freedom for all of the public school students. Public schools are very important. I'm the product of public schools in Nashua High. I grew up there, but we want to make sure that the pathway is there for every child to reach his or her full potential. And related to education in the sense of what's fundamental to all of us when it comes to our ability to enjoy the freedoms of this state, that's public safety. And that kind of goes to my background, having been Attorney General, having been a murder prosecutor before that. We've been consistently ranked the safest state in the nation, or if not, one of two of the safest state in the nation. We want to keep the ranking as the safest. And that's because of all the dedicated law enforcement and first responders we have in this state, whether it's the Concord Police, the Concord Fire, our troopers, our corrections officers, everyone, the deputy sheriffs that come together to make sure that this state remains safe and strong. And we take it for granted, and we should, in the sense that we should be able to walk down our streets safely and enjoy our quality of life. But one of the issues that our first responders, what I found about when I was running for office, which was of concern to me, is we're really down. We're down 65 troopers. We made it harder at the local level. Most localities, Manchester's down 20 officers. Firefighters, they're having a harder time recruiting. And so one of the factors in that is that their retirement system is not competitive anymore. And so in my budget, I'm making an investment to help shore up and make stronger and more competitive our Group 2 retirement system so that we can recruit and retain our police officers and keep them, and our firefighters and our first responders, and keep them in New Hampshire and make sure that we remain the safest state in the nation. The other issue that we continue to face, going back to my time even as Attorney General, but then the issues were really more about methamphetamine. Of course, it's been about our opioid crisis and fentanyl. And now we have, unfortunately, the drug dealers become even more clever. They're mixing fentanyl with a drug called xylazine, which is really meant for veterinarian purposes, but unfortunately with xylazine, Narcan doesn't work. And so we've saved a lot of lives with Narcan, but this is a real concern as we see the rise of this. So my budget focuses on making sure that on the enforcement end, we're continuing to fund Operation Granite Shield. What that has done is brought people together, brought the local departments together with, for example, the county, along with the federal, so bringing everyone together in the task force model to really go after the high-level people that are trafficking this poison into our state. And we've created a new effort for the northern part of the state called Northern Shield that'll do the same. In addition to that, we're continuing to fund, prevention and treatment and making sure, for example, the workforce-friendly recovery, those who are in recovery, those efforts are supported because we need to do that. We need to go after the people who are those trafficking the poison, and these are pretty high-level people, cartel-like people, but get help for the people who are struggling with addiction so that they can go on and succeed and have a productive life. In fact, recently I had an experience where the mayor of Lawrence reached out to me. And, some of you may have followed my campaign when I had this little saying called "Don't mass it up." And so when I got the call, from the mayor of Lawrence, I said, "Wow, this is great." And he wanted to talk to me about the cross-border initiatives on the drug trafficking. So he came up to Concord, he brought his police chief, he brought his DA, I brought leaders from law enforcement in New Hampshire, and we're building bridges there. So how we can share intelligence, how we can work better together, because we don't want our residents dying from the drugs being trafficked there and vice versa. So we're gonna continue to build those kinds of partnerships for New Hampshire. In fact, I'll work with anyone if it's good for New Hampshire, and that's what's so important. We need to do that and really build the type of collaboration to succeed for our state. So I've talked about some of the issues that I've addressed in my budget, and I look forward to answering. I'm sure you have other questions about areas that are important to you, and I look forward to answering your questions after. But one of the most important things that I had to address in my budget, but it's one of my most important roles as governor, is to ensure those that are most vulnerable, who really need our help, get the support and really, in many instances, daily support that they need from the state of New Hampshire. Our first step in the budget, one of the things I had to look at the most was to protect programs, especially for those who have developmental disabilities. And this budget has over $1 billion in it to fund those services, whether it's transportation, medical appointments, physical therapy appointments, other vital services. This budget really focused on that. And we've had a more challenging fiscal environment, so I had to find reductions in spending, but this was a top priority of mine. I'm also proud to say that the budget will ensure that we continue to have no wait list for disability care in the state of New Hampshire, my proposal, and I'm going to continue to push that as this budget goes through the process with the House and Senate. In addition to that, an area that I think we continue to still have challenges on that impacts all of us is mental health. And our community mental health centers are on the front lines of that, of providing care to the people of this state, and especially those that can't afford it, for example, through a private provider. So my budget put resources to address for the community mental health centers when it came to the uncompensated care and those they're helping in the community, because that is a priority of mine. And we'll also, continue to make sure that we look for ways using the community colleges, our university system, to enhance the credentialing that our mental health providers can obtain, because we have not enough mental health providers, and we need to make sure we find ways to increase the number of people who are working in this important field. So those are some of the things that I addressed in the budget that I sent over the legislature. Now the House has it, and we'll see what they do. So I tried to condense some of the things I talked about when I gave my budget address. So I look forward to answering any other questions you have. But I just want to close with this. We live in a beautiful, wonderful state. And it's a real privilege to serve as governor of this state. And one of the things that I appreciate most, I haven't been in office long, is that we do come together to get things done and to solve problems. And there are lots of public and private partnerships and partnerships with the nonprofit communities that do, nonprofits that do so much for us in New Hampshire. So while we face some challenges, again, I want to repeat, I couldn't be more optimistic about the positioning of New Hampshire. We are a very strong state. We have a lot of opportunity, and I'm confident that we'll take these challenges on, we'll work together, and we'll continue to not only be the beast of the Northeast, but I think really the best state in the nation to live, work, and raise a family. And I just would say to all of you, if there's something that you want to chat with the governor's office, we want to hear your feedback. I'm right over at the State House, but we're reachable and would love to hear what's on your mind. And I also have my Chief of Staff, Chris Connolly. Chris, why don't you stand up with me here today? So if you can't reach me, please reach out to Chris. And thank you for having me today, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thanks.
So we have a few minutes for Q&A, and I think, we'll wrap this up about a quarter hour, but I think Kevin mentioned she may stick around for a few minutes if people want to.
Of course, yeah.
So, open for questions, folks. I knew you'd be the first one.
Thank you, Governor, for being here today. Kirk Carpenter from Fellowship Housing Opportunities.
Okay.
In Market, where you provide housing for individuals living with severe mental illness. And I want to extend much thanks for including in your budget funding for uncompensated care in mental health. And while I understand that co-pays for Medicare were also discussed, I'm wondering if you could comment on how that might contribute to additional uncompensated care being generated. And also, if they do go through, is there a possibility that we might be able to reduce or eliminate spend down, which is impacts that population?
Well, thank you very much for the question. So New Hampshire, Medicaid is a very important program, especially as we think about children and those families who are in need. New Hampshire actually has the 5th largest eligibility in the country, so we're top 5 when it comes to health care, Medicaid access for children. And in fact, also, we have higher access than many other states when it comes to adults as well. And so in my budget, one of the things I had to do as I was looking for ways to make sure that we sustain that eligibility, and this budget fully sustains eligibility for Medicaid in New Hampshire, is so we have eligibility up above 255% of poverty. And so we followed the lead of 18 other states. So they're above that 255%. We put some premiums in, but there's caps on them. They cannot be over 5% of income. But also we're going to have a safety valve too. So if a family is not able to contribute those premiums, we'll have a safety valve so that they won't lose coverage, and we'll work with them, because that's very important. So we're crafting that, working with HHS right now, because I share your concern of not wanting to put ourselves in that position. And when it comes to just so you know, children's Medicaid, so really half the country doesn't provide eligibility where we do on Medicaid. So we are in a position where we're providing coverage, and we're going to continue to provide coverage that is greater than 20, we're the 5th highest in the country. And this was my way to sustain it with a safety valve to make sure no family who is below the 255 point, they're not paying anything or putting any skin in the game on that. It'll really be above that level that we're covering. So I thought about this very carefully on how we structured it, and I want to make sure that we protect eligibility in New Hampshire. So that really was my priority. And also with what's happening in Washington, making sure we protect that eligibility.
Other questions? Laura?
Can you speak to any support for rural ambulance services? I know in Lost Clinton, we have a unique model. We have a nonprofit ambulance service that we share with Canterbury, Salisbury, and Merrimack County complex. The cost of ambulance services has gone up exponentially, and of course the town has contributed the cost of that, or in the Concord station, most of the whole cost of that. We're relying more and more on mutual aid with less and less availability of it. So is there any plan for the future to support ambulance service in the state of New Hampshire?
Well, I think the biggest thing the state can look at it with that, I know that one of the issues for those communities that have their own ambulance service is there's this strange billing issue that needs to be addressed and fixed, which I fully support fixing, which is that when you go to the doctor and you use your health insurance, the portion that the insurance company pays, they pay directly to the provider, and then I pay whatever my copay is, right? If I have a $25 copay to go get primary care, and they're covering the other percentage of it, the doctor gets that money. We have this really weird situation that the way it works on the ambulance care is that the money's actually going, that is covered by the insurance or other coverage piece, is going directly to the people instead of to the provider. And it's creating a really difficult situation. So I think something the state could fix immediately is making sure that the communities that are providing the ambulance care, just like any other provider, get the coverage that anyone has. So if you have insurance coverage, they get that piece, because otherwise these communities are stuck going after individuals to get the money back, and that's very tough, and they don't have an army to do that. So I'd like to fix that, number one. The other piece is looking at making sure the people you're serving, if they're eligible for Medicaid or other programs, that we're covering that. How do we do that and make sure you're getting reimbursement for that? So I think those are two things we could address immediately, even in a tough fiscal environment, that would help the local ambulance services. But I'm very cognizant, especially if you look at what just happened in Exeter with the hospital there and HCA, that it's really important that we protect those local ambulance services. Yes.
Tom Furtado, Cash Housing. Thank you, Governor, for coming today to speak to us. Question, you mentioned in your budget you have a bill regarding Medicare payment for adults with developmental disabilities. There's a huge need for housing for adults with developmental disabilities. And I'm just wondering if there's any carve-out or any funds in that budget or that bill that would assist in building housing or assist in building housing for adults with developmental.
Well, I wouldn't say, so what we did is we maintained robust funding for the services for those who have developmental disabilities. So I wouldn't say that there's a new separate fund just for housing for that, but where housing reimbursement is important, especially to make sure we don't have a wait list in those services, we maintained and made sure that the funding there and additional funding to ensure that those individuals, especially those who have, frankly, they have a lot of physical challenges, and making sure that they have the support that they need. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kathy Stewart from Hometown
federal programs that
Well, I think, my job as governor is to fight as hard as I can for New Hampshire. And I was in Washington 2 weeks ago, and that is, we're interfacing on behalf of New Hampshire with the new cabinet. I met many of them. Also, the White House on the programs that impact New Hampshire. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now. We don't know where things are going to end up, but I can tell you that that's what I'm doing already. And when there's been uncertainty on certain programs, we interface, and we're actually often able to solve some of the issues that come up on certain funding streams. So that's what we're doing, and I'm going to continue to fight for New Hampshire in any way I can.
There was a question over here. Yes.
Hi, Governor.
Hi.
Jason here, Taylor Ruddle. And one of the major obstacles to growth, whether it's business growth or housing growth, is rules and regulations.
Yes.
Laws should be hard to make, and they are. An idea goes from an idea to your desk, and that's a long process. It's extremely hard, most of them don't make it. But an administrative rule is extremely easy to change. And with the Supreme Court's recent major questions decision to kind of close that loophole on the administrative state, in New Hampshire, our administrative rules dwarf our actual laws. And I'd like to hear your opinion on how to range some of those administrative rules and give that power back to our legislature and have them, openly debate these rules and pass them in a more transparent way. It's extremely easy to get an administrative rule change. If somebody in one of these committees agencies decides they want to change that, it's way simpler process. And I think a lot of things that should be RSAs end up over in administrative rules. So how do we kind of tamp that administrative state down?
Yeah, no, I would say this. I think you were referring at the national level of the Chevron decision. In New Hampshire, the issue is actually the same somewhat with Washington, but thankfully it's not as big of an issue as it can be in Washington. And that is when you pass a law, you need to define key terms so that rather than just defer it to rulemaking. Sometimes rulemaking is really important on it's important to implement certain things. You can't get every detail worked out, but really looking at making sure we define as much as possible in the laws that are passed so that the public can know what was passed, what was intended, and they can't be changed. That intention can't be changed by the agencies, by the rulemaking process. The other way that we're really looking, and I look at that process now, it's a legislative process, rulemaking, where agencies come, but if there are particular rules that you're concerned with as a business person, those agencies are executive branch agencies, and they report to me. So obviously, before an agency goes over on rulemaking, as a new governor, some of this is already in process, but we're asking what are you doing and what kind of proposal and who's going to be impacted by it, and have you certainly got the people that are impacted at the table to make sure that we're doing the right thing. That's so important. I've also established a commission on government efficiency called the COGE, not the DOGE, and it was established by executive order. They have public meetings. We have a website right on the governor's site. If you have ideas, we're soliciting ideas from the public. So if there's things that you want to see changed in government or things that you think aren't right or can be better, the goal is to make better. We all want to be better. And so please give us your feedback on that, because we'd love to hear the feedback. This commission has smart, talented people on it, and they're going to make recommendations to me. Those recommendations, they have public meetings, so if you want to attend a meeting, but also those recommendations they make to me will be public, so you can see what they are and whether I choose to adopt them or not. Ultimately, whether I want to pursue something, I've asked great people to look at from the outside, what can we do differently and better? But we'll follow the process on any recommendation and make sure you know what it is before I decide to pursue it. But I hope we're going to get some good ideas, and I think we will. It's always really helpful. What happens in any organization, not just government, is that you always say, well, this is how we always did it, right? But just because we always did something a certain way doesn't mean it's the best way. So it's good to have new perspectives, new ideas, new people come to the table and really refresh what we're doing, so hopefully we can serve the people of New Hampshire even better.
We have time for one more. Anybody else? Well, I think we may have exhausted the questions. I think the government's going to
Tim.
stick around for a few minutes.
I have something, if I can have a point of personal privilege here, if that's okay, since I have no more questions. But I just want to thank you all for being here today. But I have brought a commendation, and my commendation is honoring Tim Sink. And whereas... This is the other cool thing, I guess, and by the way, if anyone, please let me know if you have someone you want to honor that's special, please come to our office and let us know. But Tim is certainly a very special individual. And so this commendation says, whereas Tim Sink has served as president and CEO of the Greater Concord Chamber of Commerce since 1992, leading the state's largest chamber with dedication, vision, and an unwavering commitment to the Concord business community. And whereas under his leadership, the Chamber's membership has doubled to more than 800 members, strengthening its role as a vital advocate for businesses, organizations, and economic growth in the Capital Region. And whereas throughout his tenure, Tim Sink has played an instrumental role in advancing key initiatives such as downtown revitalization efforts, including the Main Street renovation and the redevelopment of Horseshoe Pond, shaping Concord into the vibrant and thriving city it is today. And whereas his commitment to fostering the next generation of professionals is evident in the Chamber's expanded programming for students and young professionals, ensuring that the workforce of tomorrow is well prepared for success. And whereas his leadership has not only elevated the Greater Concord Chamber of Commerce, but has also strengthened the broader New Hampshire business community, fostering collaboration, innovation, and the spirit of entrepreneurship across the state. Now, I therefore, Kelly Ayotte, the governor of the state of New Hampshire, commend Tim Sink for his more than 3 decades of exemplary service, his dedication to Concord's economic growth, and his lasting impact on the businesses and citizens of the Granite State. So on behalf of the people of New Hampshire, we want to thank you, Tim. You've done an amazing job, and just to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and I know the Chamber is so grateful for everything, and you're going to have many more goodbyes, but I thought this is my opportunity.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it. We will see you at the next chamber event.